Marxism is the appeal of Nietzsche. That's and I think you find that in the Frankfurt School, Habermas, and so on. That there is, and that began really with Lukács and so on a long time ago. It's been a continuous thing that these people were smart enough to recognize where the real intellectual force was and somehow to incorporate it. I mean, I'm not saying that it was a propaganda stunt. I mean, I think they were convinced Marxists who didn't want to think it through, but for whom Nietzsche posed great problems, and they somehow took that in. And I think, of course, that has a great deal to do. The refugees from Hitler, the Frankfurt School, spent a long time in the United States, 20, 25 years, and they were extremely effective. But for example, what the kind of charm of Marcuse, if there is any charm, is precisely that, a Marxist analysis of the present, a Nietzschean hope for the future after the revolution. Nietzschean, was somewhat banalized or vulgarized into Freudianism. Another way of speaking of the power of Nietzsche in the democratic world is he allows for the excitement of sort of plaything, of the democratic world. I mean, it would be so boring, if there weren't these kinds of expectations. So in a way, he becomes a kind of opiate of the democratic man, if one likes it. This was in a way Nietzsche's objection to romanticism. That romanticism, which was in a way a very splendid thing with very great men, who had who opposed mediocrity and materialism in the name of art, but that very soon, as those of you who know Madame Bovary, a man like Monsieur Homais, who's the bourgeois quintessentially, uses the bohemians, and will have their paintings, and read their poetry and so on after dinner. And that in a way Nietzsche suffers some of the same fate, that he in a way gives the needed supplement to a certain life. By the way, I would very much appreciate, since my presentation is both very incomplete and halting, and because I would like your notions. I know there are people here who know Nietzsche much better than I do. For example, Ernest. I would, I'd appreciate your just interrupting, to ask questions or to state your opinions about this. But the Last Man is a very good beginning point. Zarathustra, who is come down from his mountain among men, finds that he can't attract them by descriptions of the Superman, and he says, well, all right, now I'm going to discuss them. And it is his educational technique in describing the Last Man is to describe a human being who is absolutely revolting and to arouse their contempt. Now, that human being ultimately is supposed to be a mirror in which they see themselves and have self-contempt. But in some sense, we can repeat that activity in reading this to them. They have something of which they are proud. What do they call that which makes them proud? The education, they call it. It distinguishes them from goatherds. That is why they do not like to hear the word contempt. Apply to them. Let me then address their pride. Let me speak to them of what is most contemptible. But that is the last man. And here his beginning point, of course, is modern education, and he doesn't mean to say modern education is criticized by the Reagan administration, but modern education as it was known in Germany, which is a very much admired thing. Modern scholarship, modern academic philosophy, history, natural science, and so on. Bildung, the bourgeois education as was represented in the high period of the German university. The time has come for man to set himself a goal. The time has come for man to plant the seed of his highest hope. His soul is still rich enough, but one day this soil will be poor and domesticated, and no tall tree will be able to grow into it. Alas, the time is coming when man will no longer shoot the arrow of his longing beyond man, and the string of his bow will have forgotten how to whir. Incidentally, I wonder what students will get from that. Do you think it'll mean anything to them? And I think one must give some kinds of explanations in this context. And I mean, behind it, of course, lying all of this is the simple but powerful Nietzsche formulation: God is dead. And of course, God was what caused men to do extraordinary deeds in the past, and therefore, and without God, man will have no goal of aspiration. And the purpose of any serious thought, according to Nietzsche, is to reestablish goals, which means to say something which men can respect, esteem, or can value, and that, of course, is the beginning of the understanding that the good and bad. That formulation should be replaced by value. The notion that a value is something something that's valuable, something that we esteem. And what has happened is we have lost the objects of esteem. It's worthwhile asking students what they esteem these days. They all say they esteem something. And I think in general you'll find they esteem being open, which means to say having no esteem. They esteem open people, or they esteem certain kinds of very abstract notions. And Nietzsche puts it in the Will to Power section that morality has become abstract. People who have really nothing to do with their lives. Gandhi, would be a perfect example of abstract moralism. As opposed, say, to Athenians' attachment to Pericles, or an American to George Washington at the time, of the Revolution, or immediately afterward. With a group of students, I always say these things just to get reactions from them. What do they? One kid said, "Well, what's wrong with my not having any heroes? As a matter of fact, I do have heroes. What's wrong with Mick Jagger being my hero?" And he said, "That's not so bad because you see, they still are moralistic while trying to be free. I also have other heroes." I said, "Who?" "Jesse Jackson and Cardinal Bernardin." And I said, "Well, they're all three on the same level." That is no way to denigrate the Cardinal, or Jesse Jackson either. But they are largely, like Mick Jagger, media creations. This kid had never heard of Cardinal Bernardin before the nuclear freeze movement. 3 months before, and the nuclear freeze movement itself had that character of abstract moralism. And why are they for the nuclear freeze movement? So we can have peace, and then we can have absolute freedom to do whatever we want. That's the there's no. I think that's the inner content. Nietzsche says here, "I say unto you, one must still have," a very important formula, one must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. "I say unto you, you still have chaos in yourselves." Now, this formula, of course, as is always with Nietzsche, Nietzsche, very important atheist. His observation of modernity is that men no longer really believe. That's his assertion. It's finished. Now, whether that is simply true is another question, but that is the beginning assertion, the beginning observation, and therefore, but the difference between Nietzsche and atheism